not to record. As always, these lectures will be presented on the YouTube page link I sent you. I actually will embed it on your e-learning page as well. So if there's any, I appreciate you all consistently coming to class and being on time. But if there's anything that you do need to review, do know that that'll be available for you. So I hope you can see this okay if you don't have your screen open in front of you. So this chapter examines, Jakira, how social psychologists do their research, again, which is really important. We begin by asking, why should you learn about research methods? We answer this question by discussing how learning about research methods can benefit you both in this course and beyond. Then we consider, Michael, how researchers come up with and develop ideas and begin the research process. I know, Jakira, some of you all have been doing this already in terms of just trying to develop ideas and how we develop that into research. Next in this chapter, we're going to provide an overview of the research designs that social psychologists use to test their ideas. And then finally, we turn to important questions about ethics and values, including new controversies and practices in social psychology. And one of the things that this book, and I think many of the Cengage books do well, and there are some problems with some of the Cengage texts, but one of the things that I think that they do well is like really kind of give you a preview of some of the content of the chapter. So really use these introductory paragraphs just to kind of give you a sense of what's to come. That's a real, particularly as you go on to grad school, particularly like some of the rigorous programs that I anticipate for you all, you're going to be doing quite a bit of reading. So reading anything to get a sense of what you're going to be looking for, I think is a really important aspect of reading comprehension. You're starting a new semester, Ron, or quarter at school, and you're just beginning to settle into a new scheduling routine. You're looking forward to your new courses. In general, it's an exciting time, but there's one major catch. As you spend more and more time with your new classmates and new responsibilities, you're leaving someone behind. It could be a boyfriend or girlfriend, a spouse or a close friend, someone who is not involved in what you're doing now. You may now live far apart from each other, or your new commitments in school may be keeping you apart from each other more than you like. The romantic in you says, together forever, or at least no problem. But the realist in you worries a little bit, Michael. Not only because you're distant, but you're seeing all types of fly new honeys on this new campus. What are you to do? Will your love or friendship be the same? Can it survive the long distance or the new demands of your time or the new people in your respective environments? Your friends and family may have advice to offer in this situation, Jakira. Some might smile and reassure you. Don't worry, remember what they say. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. This will only strengthen your relationship. When you go back home for spring break, it's going to be all good. It's going to be totally blissful. Others might call you aside and whisper, hey, yo, don't listen to them, Jay. Everybody knows out of sight, out of mind. You better be careful, dog. Ain't no telling what that dude doing up at his school, man. I don't know. One of your hater-ass friends. Taking your mind off this problem, you begin to work on a class project. You have the option of working alone or as part of a group. What should you do? You consult the wisdom of common sense. Maybe you should work in a group. After all, everyone knows 2 heads are better than 1. And some members of your group began to miss meetings and shirk responsibilities. I'm sure that's never happened to none of y'all. Though you remember that too many cooks spoil the broth. Will you regret having been so quick to decide to join this group? After all, haven't you been taught, Michael, look before you leap? Definitely don't leap before you look, dog. Then again, if you had wasted and missed a chance to join the group, you might have regretted your inaction, recalling that he who hesitates is lost. It's such a confusing time. Questions about the course of relationships, and I want to warn you in advance, Ron, that there's probably a moral to this story. Questions about the course of relationships, the efficiency of working in groups, and the regret from action versus inaction are social psychological questions. Let me repeat. Questions about the course of relationships, the efficiency of working in groups, and the regret from action versus inaction are social psychological questions. Again, we all have gone through situations like this where we have questioned, man, should I have done this or should I have done that? Man, I might have waited too long to do this. You know what, should I have asked, like maybe I should have just asked Dr. Muhammad for some help. Man, Ron really seemed to have a good grasp on this in class, but you know, I ain't want to look like no punk and ask him. I don't need no help. I'm good. So again, these are social psychological questions that we have all asked, even if you've not had these exact situations, and you probably have all had these exact situations in terms of your first semester and early days in college. But the point is, it ties into some testable things that we'll talk about in a moment. Let me continue. And because we are all interested in predicting and understanding people's behavior, Ron, and their thoughts and feelings about each other, we all have our opinions and intuitions about social psychological matters. If the discipline of social psychology will build on personal experiences, observations, and intuitions of everyone who is interested in social psychological questions, it would be full of interesting theories and ideas. But it would also be a morass of contradictions, ambiguities, and relativism. Instead, social psychology is built on a scientific method. And what this speaks to, Jakir, is that we want to go about a systematic way of answering these questions. Scientific, it's easy to see how chemistry is scientific, where, you know, again, you may have done the volcano project when you were young, Michael, where you pour this ingredient in, you pour this ingredient in, and it causes an effect, Ron, when you introduce these certain variables. If you don't pour this vinegar in, it's not gonna have the effect that you're looking for. So the same can be true of social science as well. When you mix two specific compounds in the lab, you can predict exactly what will happen. The compounds will exact the same way every time you mix them if the general conditions in the lab are the same. General conditions might be, if the lab is too cold, it might be different. If your lab is overheated, if it's like precipitation getting there, that could have an impact. But otherwise, it's going to respond exact the same way every single time. This is important. But what happens when you mix together two chemists or any two people in a social context? Sometimes you can get great chemistry between them. Other times you can get apathy or even repulsion. How then can social behavior, which seems so variable, be studied scientifically? Again, the same way that we believe in natural science and we can pour these ingredients, we believe that we can put two people or certain people in certain situations and it can impact their behavior. Keep these things in mind. I'm going to ask you our thoughts on these in a little bit. To many of us in the field, Jakira, that's the great excitement and challenge of social psychology. The fact that it is so dynamic and diverse. In the lab, it is really easy to predict how these things are going to interact. Human beings got a lot more variables. You never know. Again, we're talking about relationships, right? And like, I'm sure you have met somebody, like, you know, click with somebody where, you know, as a friend or in dating them romantically, where it may feel like they should be a really good match. Oh man, they like this, they're into this, and it just don't click for whatever reason. So again, it's a lot of variables involved with human beings. Keep this in mind. Because again, sometimes in addition, right, to, like we said, the conditions need to be similar. In a laboratory, Ron, we can make sure that those conditions are exactly the same. But with human beings, like you and that young lady, y'all might have been a perfect fit for each other, like, you know, last year at this time, but right now you're in a different place. Those things, again, happen all the time. Like, damn, if I would have met you like 2 years ago, this would have been perfect. Now I'm on some other shit, so this isn't really going to work out. Sorry. We've all been there. Social psychologists, furthermore, in spite of these characteristics, Michael, social psychology can and should be studied according to scientific principles. Social psychology develops specific, quantifiable. Social psychology develops specific, quantifiable hypotheses that can be tested empirically. When I say quantifiable, and I was very deliberate with that, what comes to mind when you hear that word quantify? Don't worry about if your answer is right or wrong. Go ahead, Mike.
It got to do with like numbers, like it has to do with some type of stats.
Good. It's usually dealing with numbers. You're absolutely right. What it speaks to more, we find a way to measure it. That we can measure how much, like we believe in social sciences, we can measure, you click with Ron, what do you do with Jakira? We can measure, we believe, and we don't claim that these measurements are perfect, that we can measure love. Like, again, if my parents love me more than they love my siblings, they ain't gonna never admit that, but we know it. We got data to show it. Jakira, you just had a hand up.
I was just gonna add and say, like, I think of like quantity, like, but numbers, but he pretty much, said it. So yeah.
Good, but yeah, very good. So keep this in mind. We usually use numbers, but when we talk about quantifying something in empirical, it means we can see, touch, and feel it. That you and I can both look at this information, Jakira, and make the same conclusions. Keep this in mind going forward. Good job. If these hypotheses are wrong, they can be proven wrong. In addition, social sciences report, Ron, the details of how they conduct their tests so that others can try and replicate their findings. This is really important. That if you come to a certain conclusion and you find that let me see, that dressing in a shirt and tie is correlated with less police stops, you have to be able to show, Michael, how you reach that conclusion. We got to be able to see everything that you did. So with the COVID vaccines that are coming out now, right? If you're going to conduct this research, Akira, it ain't just enough to say, okay, we made this vaccine and like, hey, here it is, everybody. No, that's not how science works. You know what they got to do, Ron? They got to show the scientific community. We can go look at this as well, but you and I, well, I'll speak for myself, you may. If I look at their research, I may not be able to explain it and interpret it as well. But other experts in that field, they can look at all of it and like, okay, look, all right, they did this. Okay, then they did this, then they did this, then they did this. And in that way, Ron, what you can do, you can take all the ingredients that they had. Like I said, right, when you're making a volcano, it ain't gonna take no special talents to do that. They're gonna write down all the steps that they took in creating that volcano, that fake volcano, and they can duplicate that again. Those are the same things that should happen with the vaccine. Like, look, this is what they did. I can take all the ingredients that they used, and I can make this for myself. Obviously, you're gonna need some pretty specialized equipment, but you know what I'm saying. The same way, like in an unfortunate example, making bombs, right? To make a bomb, you need certain compounds and ingredients to make that bomb. Today in the 21st century, unfortunately, there are people, human beings that can get ingredients and they can make them themselves. You ain't got to, again, you don't have to, it's not 1950 anymore where you can only do this in a lab. No, people can do these things for themselves. We do the same thing with social science research in the way that we're going to explain in a moment. Ron Anderson.
Just this, this topic of like, reported the details, how you conduct your test and report your findings, right? So I was just thinking, to my knowledge, right, I might be wrong, but the COVID vaccine that's out, right? Mm-hmm. You're supposed to get 2 doses of it, 1 dose, and you come back for the 2nd dose.
Right.
But then, I've been thinking about this for a long time because it's kind of like, when they first announced it and then they had the people taking the shots on, on camera and the needle don't go in the arm, or then, the lady took the shot and then passed the fuck out 5 minutes later and then she's dead 2 weeks later. So it's kind of like, I'm now kind of thinking like, what if somebody's recording this data and seeing how the Black community acts and reacts to this? And it's like, oh shit, I'm not getting the vaccine. So it's like, there's more available for when those upper class white folk come back and it's like, yeah, now we got more for your 2nd vaccine or your 2nd shot. That was just a random ass thought I had.
Great question. Yeah. Great. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that there are any Black scientists out there who might be wondering about that as well?
Definitely. All
right. This is an important discussion because a lot of times, like, where as it relates to COVID, there are so many like conspiracy theories that come about. I've delved in some of them. Like, again, when COVID first hit, I was not taking it very seriously at all. As I got more data and information, I had to adjust some things. Like, cause again, what makes you unintelligent is, again, Jakiri and I should be able to look at the same data and like, okay, like, look, like whether it be something related to COVID or whether it relates to something like George Floyd. One of the reasons why that like struck such a nerve is that for many years, they just taken our words, Michael, about, police brutality. But with that was an unfortunate case study where we could look at it. Everybody could see it and see what was happening and understand like, hey, and then, right, we could look at that and we can look at what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse in Wisconsin. We could look at what happened with the police at the Capitol, and we see with our own eyes. So look, you can give different interpretations of that. You cannot objectively argue that those are different results. Now, we could debate about the reasons why. I believe because, Black people are treated differently. Other people say, no, it could be some other factor. Okay, fine. Show me your research. This is important because a lot of times, right, when we talk about whether it be COVID or social issues like Black people dying disproportionately at the hands of the police, that oftentimes the conspiracy theorists assume that they're the only people that have thought about these questions and considered these things. When in reality, it's people's jobs who do nothing but think about and consider this stuff. So it's all types of Black scientists. So when we think about, oftentimes it's perceived as though white people have this grand source of information that only they have access to. That's not how science works. It's just not. So this doesn't mean that you can't so even with things like that, right? And we'll talk about that later on. Has anybody here taken any aspirin before when they had a headache?
Like Tylenol?
Yeah, or any kind.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Y'all think that some people that's gonna take some aspirin this year, y'all think that some of them may die even if they take the prescribed amount?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Does that mean that people shouldn't take aspirin when they got headaches?
Nah.
No. Science ain't perfect. Bad things are gonna happen. It's gonna be people that die in childbirth. So is that a reason not to have children? It's gonna be people that die in surgery. That's you cannot protect against anything happening 100% of the time. What we want to look at is science is what normally happens. Now, it is justified to be concerned about the vaccine and many things about COVID only because it's so recent and there's so much that we don't know. But most of the scientific community fully acknowledges that. The same way, most of y'all are too young. Well, all of y'all are too young, but when HIV and AIDS first hit American society, there was so much misinformation that was spread. A lot of that misinformation wasn't spread by the scientists. Y'all want to know the scientists that was really responsible for enhancing our understanding about AIDS and HIV? Anybody know which scientist that is? This cat by the name of Dr. Anthony Fauci. So he was a young man at the time, and he was doing a lot of research on AIDS and HIV. And all types of people trying to say, no, it's not really a disease, it's not really a danger. You know what they called it initially? They called it gay cancer, because they believe that the explanatory variable in whether or not, and do your own research on this, I could be making it up, but I'm not. So they believe that the explanatory variable that caused you to get HIV was being a homosexual. So it made it where many other people engaged in harmful behaviors thinking that they were safe. Well, sure, I'm having unprotected sex with every girl in the neighborhood, but I'm safe from HIV because I'm not gay. So and that would be almost even 10 years in. When Magic got AIDS, Michael, we were all convinced that Magic was finna die 2 weeks later. I'm like, oh my God, came home from school, oh my God, this dude Magic is finna fucking die. This is awful. What the fuck? But the science has changed. We learn more about it. This is gonna happen with COVID as well. But within that, unfortunately, we're probably going to be making some mistakes in the short run. We hope we can minimize them. So initially, in the first months, we weren't even acknowledging, Ron, that it was airborne, which just seemed pretty obvious to me, but the scientists did not acknowledge it at first. So we're getting more and more information, and getting more information, it don't mean that people are there are definitely people that are trying to trick you and manipulate this information. No doubt about that on both sides of the debate. But it's really important to understand that within the scientific community, a lot of times, it don't be nearly as much debate as is imagined. Whether we're talking about something like this or global warming. You'll hear global warming debated politically. In a scientific community, it's not a lot of debate about that, quite frankly. Global warming is a fact. So keep these things in mind, right? That a lot of times as scientists, so there's some dangers in this, and I understand why they're rushing the vaccine. But the danger may be that, have we really taken the time to learn everything that we can about both the disease, the vaccines, and just everything along with these processes? So those are some legitimate questions that should absolutely be asked. But I think it might be a bridge too far to like if some people die, if like a large amount of people die from the vaccine, we definitely want to give that a lot of attention. But there are going to be some negative side effects, and we may lose some people in this process. But if it's less than 1%, that's very different than like 15% of people that are taking this medication are having this kind of side effect and so forth. Keep this in mind going forward. But great questions, and I want you to like present these questions to current events, because there's a lot of like scientific science is playing a really important role in our society today in a way that it hasn't in quite some time. So I hope that you're paying attention to that in the way that Ron's question suggested that he is. In addition, Ron, social scientists report the details of how they conduct their tests so that others can try to replicate their findings. It is really important. Everybody got to see how you did this stuff. So the same way, right, where it's not just enough, Jakira, for you to know that your grandma's banana pudding is really good. Grandma has to show you all the ingredients in this discipline. Ain't no hidden recipes and stuff like that. Like, nah, Grandma, I need to see what you put in here, dog. Your banana pudding seems pretty addictive, Grandma. I need to make sure you didn't put some crack in this banana pudding. Let me see your recipe. So they integrate evidence from across time and place, and slowly but steadily, Ron, slowly but steadily. So research is usually a very slow process. Like I told you, I'm starting some research right now. I have told them like it's gonna take me 2 years. Right. If I'm trying to do it right, if I'm trying to be serious about it, I can be quick and I can make some really broad conclusions that may not be borne out by truth. That don't mean every research project got to take that long, but oftentimes you got to look at the big picture. So and slowly but steadily, they build a consistent and even more precise understanding of human nature. How social psychologists investigate social psychological questions scientifically is the focus of this chapter. Before we explain the methodology they use, we first explain why it's important and interesting for you to learn about these matters. Again, the focus of this chapter, how social psychologists investigate social scientific questions scientifically. Again, that's an important word, scientifically. Not just asking questions randomly. Are there any questions from you all so far? I'm gonna get the next section and then I'm gonna hand off to y'all. Again, if any questions do come up, please don't hesitate to let me know. So let's look at why you should learn about methods. Again, very important and not really taught enough, quite frankly. So one important benefit, Michael, for learning about research methods is that it can make you a better, more sophisticated consumer of information. This is one of the things about this class, Shakira, that's really important for me. I would love for you to go on to be Dr. McLeod one day soon. I would love for you to be able to use this knowledge and information in a way that you can help benefit other people, Michael, in your career. But just like, again, this is the information age where, Ron, the more your knowledge and information impacts how much money you make. Again, this is not an economy anymore where you build things with your hands. You sell what you know. So having access to good, accurate information is so critically important. Particularly, right, like I said, it makes you a more sophisticated consumer. What did I tell you before that most psychologists, what line of work did most psychologists go into these days? What line of work do they go into?
Was it cognitive psychology?
Yeah. And what do they do? Who do they work for?
They work for basically companies that's trying to promote or appeal to somebody else. So it's like, we want you to understand who we selling to so we can know what we need to do to, like the TV in the front of the store type thing.
Absolutely, good. And Jakira, I think you told me that you've seen The Social Dilemma, and it spoke in great and quite frankly scary detail about how people will try and use social media to engage you in certain ways and pull upon you emotionally. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jakira, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, right, like, disagreeing with that. It was really crazy.
It was. I was like, damn. So what that speaks to, but being informed about these kind of things, Shakira, makes it where you can be more informed and have a better understanding of how people are going to try and manipulate you. And understanding that, hey, again, I told y'all last time about, my love and affection for kicks and stuff, Michael. So it don't be just an accident when all of a sudden an ad for some kicks be popping up on my internet searches. It's not random. They be trying to get me like, so I'm not sure if you've ever had Garrett's Popcorn. If not, you should. Garrett's is a place based out of Chicago. They got one in Atlanta, but it's not as good. It's like, I'm pretty sure that they definitely put crack in that. It's highly addictive. I might get like 110 a year because otherwise I balloon up very quickly. But they be putting that stuff all up in my little, on the ass and stuff, man. Like, look, motherfuckers, y'all not finna get me. Karina, don't you want some Garrett's? Don't you want some Garrett's? Don't you want some Garrett's? Go and search for a flight somewhere. And then they're gonna be pulling up, hey, you want to go to Miami? Hey, let's go to Miami.
Right. I just wanted to add that because JetBlue has been blowing me up and I don't even fly them. I only searched them one time.
Right. So it'd be a lot of people, right, that be doing that stuff and they be getting you out of your money. So bit by bit. Now, again, this is a consumer society. So like, I like sneakers, Michael. So I'm going to buy some kicks, but it should be when I want to buy some kicks, not because other people are directing me to. So at the base level, you all being consumers of information, whether it be buying something, whether it be getting a medication or not getting getting a vaccination or not getting a vaccination, whether it be you should go to college and major in this or you should major in that, just being consumers of information so that you can make informed decisions that are best for you, Michael. Training and research methods in psychology can improve your reasoning about real life events and problems. Real talk. We are constantly, now I will warn you in advance, Shakira, there's a danger in this and that after a while, it becomes hard to turn it off. And you're looking at everything. You're going to get on some of your friends' nerves sometimes, but it's okay. Much like my girlfriend is a history professor and she can't just watch a movie run. She got to watch the movie and she dissecting all the historical inaccuracies. It's like, well, actually, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. She's like, you know what? Let me just stop. But it'd be hard. She can't help herself. It almost make her flesh crawl. So the same way as you become more gifted consumers of information, bad information just, oh my goodness. So anyway, we are constantly bombarded by facts from the media. Again, commercials. If you have irritable bowel syndrome, this brings it down by 30%. So your grandma will be buying all types of stuff she don't need, dog, because she done seen it on TV. Because the media presented her with facts. From the media, from sales pitches, and from other people. Again, not just sales pitches. 10 people is going to tell you some bad information today, dog. Please do your own research. Much of this information turns out to be wrong, Michael, at best. Wrong, or at best, oversimplified and misleading. We're told about the health benefits of eating certain kinds of food. So like everybody's on a keto diet and stuff now. A few years ago, it was a South Beach diet, Jakira. It's something new every single year. Do your own research. The college entrance exam scored benefits of certain preparation courses. Hey, if you take this GRE prep course, your scores will improve 30%. Is that true? Have you done a research? Or the social status benefits of driving a certain kind of car. If you want to buy a Beamer, great. But saying things like, hey, I'm buying this because, my friend told me that, it really performs well, or the gas mileage is a lot better than other cars. Maybe. Again, people make decisions like that all the time. To each of these pronouncements, we should say, Jakira, prove it. What is the evidence? What alternative explanations might there be? Again, for any situation in social phenomena, Ron, there are many alternative explanations. Perhaps that woman died strictly because of the vaccine. But it could be 25 other things as well. Let's do the research and find out. That person could be a homosexual now because they were molested as a child. Let's do the research and find out, because the data shows that most people that are molested don't actually end up being homosexual. It could be that the police only use violence in situations where they feel threatened. Let's look at the evidence and see what the truth is. Prove it. For example, Ron, a commercial tells us that most doctors prefer a particular brand of aspirin. We see this all the time. So should we buy this brand? Think about what it's compared with. Perhaps the doctors didn't prefer that brand of aspirin more than other and cheaper brands of aspirin, but rather were asked to compare the brand of aspirin with several non-aspirin products for a particular problem. In that event, the doctors may prefer any brand of aspirin. So it's like, okay, look, let's actually ask these, like, again, the way that you set up your research is really important. I'm going to ask 10 doctors, do they prefer Tylenol to fix a headache? Do they prefer Tylenol, Red Bull, cocaine, collard greens, or jogging? Most doctors, 90% of the doctors said they prefer aspirin. Then I go present my research, like 90% of doctors say that Tylenol is best for solving a headache. I didn't lie, did I? But I need to show you, Ron, the rest of my research. So you can see, like, dude, your choices was between aspirin and cocaine. Your research findings are very misleading, Dr. Muhammad. I'm not sure, like, maybe aspirin really is best. I'm not going to be basing off of what you just told me here. Keep this in mind, right? People be telling you ridiculous things in your life all the time. Ask them like 2 or 3 questions. And it usually reveals the ridiculous. So again, like most times, right, when something happens in our lives, particularly in relationships, it's all that person's fault and I was perfect. That don't always seem logical though, does it? So a lot of times, like, again, y'all be coming in, Ron be coming in, man. Professor Jakubik, man, was just totally rude and mean to me. He just cursed me out. Okay, well, that don't really sound like, dude. So can you tell me some other variables? Everybody has the potential to get there. Can you tell me some other variables that impacted that? Were you joking and mocking? Were you mocking him about his Green Bay Packers choking in the NFC Championship yet again for a second straight year? That might make him a little bit aggravated, Ron. You got to give me the context of that. So again, what we try and do with our methods, we try and give the context of how we arrived at these decisions or arrived at these conclusions, which is really important. And we got to be able to show and explain that to other people. One of the things that we're going to find, Jakir, is we go and do our research and we start to try and find out certain things. Is that the method that we might want to use initially, we might find out, you know what, this might not be the best way to find this out. This might not make as much sense. I was going to use surveys, but you know what? I don't think these surveys are really telling me what I want to do. You know what? If that happens, it is totally okay. As a scientist, Jakir, you got to admit that. Your goal is not to prove that this conclusion that I had before I did the research is right. That ain't your goal, Jakir. Your goal is to present what's true. I may have a goal, Michael, of proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the police are racist. Police of Columbia, South Carolina are racist against Black people. But if I do the research and I find out that that's not true, I got to show that. That's the goal, truth. Keep this in mind. People that are trying to sell you stuff, Ron, their goal, like if I'm a scientist working for Tylenol, my goal is not necessarily to present you the truth. My goal is to make you buy this Tylenol. And I can use any group of facts and frame these facts in a certain way to get you to do that. As scientists, we ain't trying to do that. We want to present the facts as they are. Again, Donald Trump had a certain agenda. Dr. Fauci's like, look, dog, and again, you know, do your own research on this, but like, look, I just want to come up here and tell y'all what happened. I'm not intelligent enough to make the decision about what y'all should do, but this is what it is. How y'all want to deal with this AIDS crisis is up to y'all, but this is how many people really got AIDS, and this is how you actually get it. Now, like, so for example, Ron, one suggestion that has been made to try and reduce this has been to, because we don't just want to identify these social problems. Eventually, Jakir, we want to be able to find solutions. So if we know that the HIV is spread in a certain way and is going through certain communities in certain ways, and we have certain understandings about this, one solution was that we should give out condoms to prisoners. Why do you think that was a solution? Why do you think that was a solution?
Well, one reason, it's a lot going on in prisons, sexually wise, especially if, you know, people are there for longer than expected. And so, yeah, it's definitely a lot of sex going on and hopping from different males to different males. So, of course, that would definitely make sense.
And then what about if they get out?
Oh, now they have it. They go back to their wives or their girlfriends, and then now it spreads even more. And yep.
Because while you was in jail, your girlfriend had got 2-3 dudes, and now she didn't and all this stuff is spreading. Meanwhile, we thinking that, hey, it's just a gay disease. My boyfriend that just came home from prison, he's not gay, so I'm all good. Bad information can lead to bad decisions. And then the policymakers, right, in this country, Michael, we don't want to do anything that might look like it's helping prisoners. And we want to put our blind eye to stuff like, hey, we hate homosexuality, we hate gays, so we're gonna pretend like that's not even happening in prison. That's good. It's happening in prison, dog. I don't know what to tell you. You may not like it, it's happening in prison. Let's deal with the social facts and reality as it is and work from there. Because when we don't, it causes all types of problems. And in that sense, what Jakira talked about, it is spread disproportionately. So even though it's not a gay disease, it is easier to get it through homosexual sex. And it does they have it at higher rates than other populations, but so do Black people. And a lot of that is because, again, it spreads to our community, oftentimes through this whole download stuff, oftentimes because beliefs about science and stuff make it where we don't be going to the doctor. So it'll be all types of people that's out here with HIV that don't know it. So again, it's really important. I understand, the reason why I became a social scientist, Ron, is because I'm cynical and skeptical about information. So the cynicism that Black people have is really good. We should be distrustful of information. I just want us to be able to get access to that information for ourselves, and we don't have to take their word for any of this stuff. Most information, again, a lot of times conspiracy theories, people believe that white people is doing things in secret to try and get you. You ignorant motherfuckers. Most of the things that white folks is doing, man, they be doing way out and open for everybody to see. Do your own research, man, but it's the truth. They ain't got to be trying to trick us, man, and make you kill your fucking self. They use our information against us all the time. We have to be very strong consumers of information, and we got to share that with other people in our community. Do y'all hear me? Continuing on, I apologize getting a little fired up there. I apologize. More immediately, learning about research methods will help you understand the research findings reported in the rest of the book. Again, you're going to see stuff in this book, Ron. I'm not asking you to just be taking these cats' words for stuff. As you read these books, Michael, you got to be scrutinizing this stuff and understand the shortcomings of some of these research that we're going to unpack. This will help you on tests and in subsequent courses. If you simply read a list of psychological findings without knowing and understanding the evidence that researchers have produced to support the findings, you may discover later that the task of remembering which were the actual findings and which merely sound plausible can be difficult. I'm going to read that again. If you simply read a list of social psychological findings without knowing and understanding the evidence that researchers have produced to support the findings, you may discover later that the task of remembering which were the actual findings and which merely sounded plausible can be difficult. So for example, right, we talked about the Oedipus and the Electra complex in this class. We'll talk about it in this class. We talked about it in others. Very briefly, Michael, this is the notion that was introduced by Sigmund Freud, that the way that we get socialized into our masculinity and women get socialized into their femininity, and the way that we learn the kind of traits that we like in the opposite sex, is we go through this psychological process as children. Whereas a little kid, Michael, you want to have sex with your mama, you want to bone your mama, and you saw that your father had access to him, had access to your mother, so you began to emulate masculine traits that you saw in your father, so that if you behave more like him, then maybe your mama will let you get some. Eventually, you learn that, okay, mom probably ain't gonna let me, ain't probably gonna let me hit the skins. Damn. But in the process of that, you kind of see the kind of traits that you like in women. And in your subconscious, those things kind of play out throughout life. And even the way that you present yourself as a man is based upon that early example. And it's motivated by you want to have sex with your mama. Now, and I got you 1 second, Jakira. I see y'all making some strange faces like y'all don't believe that theory could be true. Jakira, give me your thoughts and then I'll chime in more. Tell me about the first time when you realized that you wanted to have sex with your daddy. Go ahead.
It was more of I can agree with the statement. I'm not going to put myself out there, but more so like even thinking about your uncles. Like I know for me, like I have like uncles who are very attractive. So then you see like how they are. So it's like, oh snap, I need to see if I can find that out in the world. So then you get attracted to men who are similar, like, you know, your surroundings that you know, find interest in. So, you know, like your mother, you're going to want a strong, independent woman and stuff like that. So you know, seek more of that. You find, you know, some type of desire, sexual desire to, you know, find a woman that's like that. So yeah, I was agreeing on that because I know how my uncles is, and that's what I look for.
Good, good. We're going to come back to some of those points. Very good, Jakira. Ryan Anderson, you seem very introspective.
So, I mean, thinking back to as far back as I can remember, my memory, it started at like 5 years old. Truthfully, I've never been like aware of that. I've never really like personally felt attraction like towards my mom. I've never even felt like, yo, the type of person my mom's is, that's the type of female I want. Not saying that my mom's is a bad person, but it's kind of like, you know, me and my mom's real cool. We like, again, that's my mother, but we like friends. If anything ever happened to me, I'm going to her first.
Absolutely.
Point blank.
Absolutely.
But like, you know, she called me a bitch every other week. Like, we just cool like that. You know, we just, so she a strong-headed woman. So it's like, you know, I can get that. But like, for me, it's more so of me being around my family down here. I don't really fuck with nobody down here. They all nosy and shit, but it's kind of, I see more of what I want to avoid rather than I want, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, I don't like, let me just say, I don't want to say stupidity, but I don't like stupidity,
right,
unnecessariness, and extraness. Those three things, like that shit pisses me off bad. Like, if you don't have to do something, don't do it. If it doesn't concern you, don't concern yourself with it. Like, you know, just simple shit. But then, you know, now that I say that out loud, it's kind of like, you know, I guess that kind of is how my mom's is. Like, you know, she not with the extra shit, the stupid shit, unnecessary. So it's kind of like, damn, like maybe that, like, I don't know. It's like, yeah. It's something to think about. Food for thought.
Absolutely. Good points there. So for one of the things to keep in mind, right, that in science, nothing is 100% true. So even if we found that, okay, 100%, like the people may be more likely to like seek a mate that has the traits of their opposite sex parent, that's not going to be true 100% of the time. Secondly, even though that there's like, again, I saw y'all's question up your face, I will hope and I'm pretty confident that none of you actually want to have sex with your parents at any point in your life. Again, I'm not going to judge you if you did, but it's like my sense that's probably not the case. But that doesn't mean that every aspect of Freud's theory can be thrown out, because Jakira's point is spot on in that even though it's probably not to the level where you want to have sex with them, you do, again, your environment and people you're exposed to, you kind of get a model of what the opposite sex and even the same sex is supposed to behave like very early on. So I know for sure, like, and then how you talk about you never really think about it, Ron. Most people don't. Most people, and this is important, this is one of the things I want you all to do, quite frankly, and this is going to sound really bad. Most people don't think about hardly anything. And this doesn't make them bad or dumb or unintelligent people. Life is moving really fast where a lot of times you just got to act and you just got to do. But it's really important to take time to step back. And like towards the end, when the end of the semester, I was like just really burnt out and tired. So one of the things that was really helpful for me, and that's really good about this profession, is just having time and space to just kind of think, you know, okay, why am I doing this? Why do I feel this way? Why is this happening? Why is this? You know, what can I do about this? But most of our behaviors, Ron, acting in our subconscious. We're going to talk about that in great detail in the next chapter. So there are many times where you're not thinking about this. So I know for myself that, like, one of the things I've looked at, particularly as I've gotten older, is what type of women do I like, you know, look for, and why do I look for these certain traits in women? Particularly if you're like me, man, and like, you know, you done been through a divorce before and had more heartbreak than you care to, like, you know, after a while, you got to take a step back, my kid, like, okay, look, what the hell's going on, dog? Like, what role, Kareem, do you play in these, you know, in these patterns of your relationships? You know, otherwise, you know, because after a while, I can't be thinking, okay, it's just them. It'd be mainly them, Jakira, but I have to look at myself as well. And so within that, like, yeah, they're definitely are all the traits that I'm looking for similar to those of my mother? Absolutely not. But it's a lot more than I probably would have expected. You know, she ain't like, you know, she ain't got to be totally all in the kitchen and fully domesticated. I don't want that at all, quite frankly. But yeah, she probably gonna have to cook some meals for some dudes sometimes and not feel like, oh my God, that makes me submissive. I cook for my girls too, quite frankly. So it ain't just no one side. My daddy ain't never did no shit like that. You know, my mother's very outspoken and very forthright and independent. Like, so I need a woman that speak her mind. Like, I need, like, my personality is very fiery and combative. So I need a woman who's gonna be able to kind of go back at me. Like, you can't be no passive, like just docile flower. Like I really be one, like, okay, what do you think about this? What type, like, be honest with me, what type of stuff do I need to do better? Like, you know, I need you to hold me to account. Like, I need that out of my women. I need them to, like, you know, so it helps. Like, my mother's very outgoing and sociable, those kind of things. I like those kind of things in women. My mother is very, very, like, you know, keen about her fashion, like, you know, and how she presents herself. Shakira Muhammad ain't never finna go step outside the crib, man, looking like, you know, anything out of place. I be want my women to be like that. Like, your shit gotta be tight, dog. That don't mean that you gotta be, like, you know, in all the that your hair gotta be did like perfectly every single time, or that you gotta have all the name brand clothes and stuff like that. But you need to be conscious of your appearance. You know, so many of those things, again, like, you know, has sprung from that. But again, there are many examples. The main reason, though, I want to bring that example up has to do less with the findings themselves than how Freud went about coming to that conclusion. Freud did this study back in the 1920s, and the people that he made these conclusions, he did his experiments on white boys in Germany of middle-class backgrounds. There were no Black people, there were no women, there were no Hispanic people, no Asians. So he made this really broad conclusion, Michael, of a very small group of people. So maybe what he found is true. But as an experiment, I might want to look at, okay, let me do this same experiment. I'm gonna use all your same methods. I'm gonna do this among some Black kids, and I'm gonna put a few more females in here as well. And we're gonna see if, like, you know, everybody, like, experiences the same way. Because a lot of times in social science, we talked about this earlier, Jakira, that they will say that all people feel this way, and by all people, they only study men. And they project conclusions that everybody feels this way, and we've only studied white men. But for white men, this means everybody. One of the things with the vaccines, very quickly, Michael, that they were concerned about is that not enough Black people were signing up for the trials, because they need to see, like, okay, look, if we're going to do this vaccine, how is this affected, like, amongst, like, you know, elderly people that are 65? How does it affect Black people? How does it affect Hispanic people? How does it affect women? You need to look at all those different variables before you roll this out. So ideally, you want to have as many people in your study as possible. I apologize for being so long-winded. If you simply read a list of, okay, being able to understand and therefore remember the research evidence on which social psychological principles are based should provide you with a deeper comprehension of the material. You're going to hear a lot of theories over these next few weeks. I want you to be very mindful in explaining about why or what conclusions they're trying to make with these theories, or why they came to these conclusions. As we talked about before, Ron, as you see here in your native New York City, we have been bombarded with information in our everyday lives, such as countless advertisements designed to persuade us to buy particular products or adopt particular opinions or attitudes. Learning the methods used in social psychology research can help students become more sophisticated consumers of information. Again, you think you're just walking into Times Square here, yeah, let's have some. No, you are every inch that you move is an attempt to get you to buy something. Let's look at this real quick. So what are some things here, right? Like, a lot of times, you may not even need to look at the product. So this here, what do you think they might be trying to sell? I don't know if y'all can see the arrow.
It look like it might be maybe like clothes or something.
Good guess. And again, I don't know what the answer is. What does the ad say to you? Because
wait, which ad in specific?
This one right here.
Okay. I see it.
Sex appeal.
Excellent.
Yeah, like it might be like at a party or some type of get together or something.
Good, Michael. We don't know what the product is, but you're going to have fun at this get together, and maybe you might have sex and you might meet a girl that looks like this. So, like, look at this, right, in terms of advertisements, in terms of music videos and stuff like this. So, like, one of my great frustrations in music videos, I'm trying to hear this song, man. What are your lyrics about, dog? Because that's what I'm interested in, Ron. What are you spitting about? Instead, for some reason, you got this naked girl gyrating on this expensive car that you probably don't own. Like what? Like if that's relevant to your song, God bless you. But a lot of times it's like, hey, my lyrics are whack. My lyrics are whack. My lyrics are whack. But look at the naked girl. Look at the naked girl. Buy my song. Okay, I don't really like this whack ass motherfucker, but the females in the video is pretty hot, so I'm finna rock to this. Do y'all think that happens? You think you just listen to 50? You just like 50 Cent Shakira because he's so dope, or is it because he be taking his shirt off all the time in a video? And I'm not talking about you, Shakira, but like those things are deliberate and sell. And again, like in a movie, right? They know that if they put Denzel or Michael B. Jordan in a role, even if it's a very serious role, it might be a little bit different than if they cast me in this position. Like, man, ain't nobody going to see this. But if Michael B. Jordan up in there, it might be like, look, I don't know what this movie is about, but we're going to check this one out. No, so sometimes it could be like, so a really powerful, important story like Just Mercy, like they're going to use those kind of things to try and sell an important story. So it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Shakira, it's important, right, that, I would not encourage you to use your sexuality, but if you're viewed as attractive, like there are ways that you can use that. Now, don't prostitute yourself out and if you're trying to do a job as an attorney or something like that, your skills as an attorney are going to be more important. But I ain't going to lie to you. If it's two qualified attorneys, a lot of times a person is viewed as being more physically attractive matters. So that's why, Michael, again, you ain't just being vain if you go get a fade before this interview. It matters. Again, like if I had a job interview like today, yeah, I ain't finna be going looking like I am right now. Well, I'm all shaved, my hair all looking busted and stuff. Physical appearance can matter in terms of the social psychology. It shouldn't, but it does. If you can understand it about yourself, though, you can master this and control it yourself as opposed to other people controlling it for you. A little bit more, then I'm gonna hand off to y'all. Thank you for your patience. Are there any questions or comments so far before we go on?
No, sir.
Actually, that's not what I want to do.
I got a question.
Okay, there we go. I apologize.
You good.
And again, take notes as you go through. All right, so Ron Anderson, start it off for me. Doing social psychology research is always make note of the headings for the chapters themselves. Ron, tell me what and Ron, I'll go along with you.
Okay, I got you. Quick question, real quick, just for clarity. Now, as per the syllabus, it doesn't mention any mind type activities. I just want to clarify, are we responsible for that or not? But it's not on the syllabus.
Great question. No, great question. No, you are not assigned this. I will not grade you on this, even though I know that in many classes you will. That being said, I would still encourage you to do them. I think they can be very helpful.
Gotcha.
But great question.
Right, so 2, developing ideas, beginning the research process. The research process involves coming up with ideas, refining them, testing them, and interpreting the meaning of the results obtained. This section describes the first stage of research, coming up with ideas. It also discusses the role of hypotheses and theories, and of basic and applied research.
And again, Shakira and Ron, you're already at the stage in developing ideas. Let's read
Getting ideas, gotcha. Getting ideas and finding out what's been done. Every social psychology study begins with a question, and the question comes from everywhere. As discussed in chapter 1, one of the first social psychology experiments published was triggered by the question, Why do bicyclists race faster in the presence of other bicyclists? Or consider a much more recent example. Social scientist Dylan Selterman has been conducting fascinating studies examining the connection between people's dreams about romantic partners and their actual partners of emotions and behaviors in personal relationships. Where did this idea come from? It was inspired in part by the dreams of some of his ex-girlfriends. It was inspired in part by the dreams some of his ex-girlfriends told him about. There we go.
Good. So hold fast for one moment. So as we talked about, Jakir, a lot of times researchers comes to something that may be personally interested, personally a personal interest to you. So maybe some ex-girlfriends are like, look, I was having a dream about my dude the night before, and that's the reason why I was so mad at you the next day. Like, what? So like, man, okay. So he probably like, damn, are other people experiencing this? Like, what the hell? So he wanted to find out, is this just me, or is this happening to other people? That's how a lot of research begins. Continue on, Ryan Anderson.
Got you. Questions can come from a variety of sources, from something tragic, such as a controversial interracial shooting of an unarmed man, to something perplexing, such as why men are less likely to ask for help than are women, to something amusing, such as the lyrics of a country song suggesting that other patrons in a bar seem more attractive as closing time approaches. Ideas also come from reading about research that has already been done. The most important research not only answers some pressing questions, but raises new questions, inspiring additional research.
Good.
The most reliable way to get ideas for new research, therefore, is to read about research that has already been published.
Read that again.
Got you. I got you. The most reliable way to get ideas for new research, therefore, is to read about research that has already been published.
One more time.
The most reliable way to get ideas for new research is to read about research that has already been published.
Continue.
Even if you already have an idea, you'll need to search the social psychology literature to find out what's been published already. How do you find these published studies?
So Jakir, this is what we talked about in our discussion. You got some ideas. She's trying to decide, how do I want to focus this in? She's not going to dig fully deep into reading 20 books and stuff over the next couple of days. At least I don't think so. But just do a casual search. Is like, okay, look, what else is that somebody else would know? Maybe that can help me focus in my study a little bit more. That's a normal process that everybody goes through in the research process. Continue on, Ryan Anderson.
Gotcha. How do you find these published studies? Textbooks such as this one offer a good starting point. You can also find information about many research findings by searching the internet, of course. But general searches online, such as through Google, can be widely variable in the relevance, quality, and accuracy of the information presented.
Say that again. Read that sentence one more time.
But general searches online, such as through Google, can be widely variable in the relevance, quality, and accuracy of the information presented.
Good.
Instead, scholars in the field rely on electronic bases of public research, typically available via college or university library systems. Some of these databases, such as PsycInfo, are specific to psychology literature. Others are more general. These databases allow one to instantly search massive numbers of published articles and books.
So, Dig, what does it take to get to put some information on the internet? What do you need to be able to do that?
Like to put it on the internet?
Yep.
It really don't take much.
Exactly. To do academic research, you got to go through a rigorous process. So, for an article to be published, right? Again, like I told you, I'm trying to work on a book project now. I can just put that out and put it out there, but the process I'm going through is it has to be scrutinized, Michael, by other scientists. So, y'all probably seen me over years, and Jakira, where you talk about we're gonna have you present at this conference. A large part of that is so other people can give you immediate feedback upon the validity of your research. And it can be sometimes a very contentious process where people are skeptical or cynical. So you may be presenting a certain finding and their aim is like, okay, look, this This doesn't sound true to me. So what about this, Shakira? Did you think about that? Well, I read in this article that it said this, but you over here saying that. How do you justify that? Well, I'm sure you read this, Shakira, and how did you come up with this conclusion? So in that way, you got to really, like, when you're doing research on these topics, and especially if you're presenting an article, a book, or presenting at a conference, you're the expert on that field. Like, so me, Shakira, like, I love the question and answer portion. Like, I be ready. What y'all got, motherfuckers? Hell yeah, I thought about this punk ass question that you thought about. Here's response. But actually, if you had read page 7 of my article, Michael, you would have already addressed that shit already with your punk ass. I wouldn't talk to you like that, but I'm just talking about, you know, at these conferences. But with that, so it has to go through a lot of scrutiny, Jakira, of other experts looking at your data and information. Like I said, right, with the vaccines. I can't just say, hey, I done made up a vaccine in my bathroom and I'm finna put it out on the internet. No, other doctors got to be like, okay, look, let me check this out. Okay, okay, cool. Okay, cool. All right, this makes sense. This makes sense. This makes sense. This makes sense. Okay. All right, we understand. And usually it'll be, okay, look, Ron, a lot of what you said makes sense, but, you know, maybe you should think about this too, like this one small part here. Like, I know you were looking at people from 18 to 35, but had you looked at maybe middle-aged people and see if the same thing happens? So Ron, like, you know what, that's a really good idea. So in this way, Jakira, a lot of times people make their whole careers off of like trying to look at one or two topics. So maybe you might be interested in looking at the relationship between like why Black business develop. It's scholars that may look at only at that topic. And they may look at like, okay, do Black businesses in the South perform better? Is it a difference between rural businesses and urban businesses? Do we see something if it's a business that has 10 or more employees, Black businesses that have 10 or more employees? Is that different from a business that has 30 or more employees? Do we see that limited liability corporations perform differently amongst Black people than if it was like a limit? Trying to think of another type of corporation, an S corporation. So all those differences you can try and explain away, but it has to go through the scrutiny of other people, and that's beneficial for you, Jakira. Because Jakira, your goal is not to be right with the research, right? What is our goal?
Explain.
And to get at the truth. Other people can help us do that. So somebody else may look at your research, Ryan, like, look, you got a lot of good stuff there, dog, but hey, you might want to look at this. So Ryan, you're not threatened or insecure about it. It's like, hey, man, that's a really good idea, dog. I never thought about that before. I'm actually, yeah, you're right. I'm gonna look at this too. So that's really, really helpful. Again, before I did my book, before I submitted the book proposals to the publishers, I had other people look at it first and like, hey, and then who did I just have? Did I show it to my mama? I love my mama to death. She's not qualified to speak to that. Like I gave it to other academics, social science academics. If I gave it to a biology or English professor, it might not be the same, Jakira. So keep this in mind for your own research and your own disciplines. That you want, and especially as you get into your career, you want to surround yourself with people that really know their stuff, because they got to check you and they got to cover your blind spot, Shakira. Because I don't want to be up at this conference and I'm making some claim, and then one of my homies saw that this shit was whack and they could have told me, and now you got me up here looking like a fool. So keep this in mind for your own research, right? That I'm gonna, as I scrutinize you, it's not to try and like beat you down. It's to make sure that you are really clear with the claims that you're making. So be very mindful about that. Continue on, Ron. I apologize for interrupting.
You good. 2-2B, hypotheses and theories. An initial idea for research may be so vague that it amounts to very little. I mean, it amounts to little more than a hunch or an educated guess, which, you know, hypothesis is supposed to be. But some ideas vanish with the break of day, but others can be shaped into a hypothesis, an explicit, testable prediction about the conditions under which an event will occur.
Now look
Based
here.
on-
So I'm sorry, Ron. So you're right. A hypothesis is an educated guess, but it should be very explicit with its wording, and you can predict when these things are going to occur. I'll also elaborate on that in a moment. Continue.
Based on observation, existing theory, or previous research findings, one might test a hypothesis such as teenage boys are more likely to be aggressive towards others if they have just played a violent video game for an hour than if they played a non-violent video game for an hour. This is specific prediction and it can be tested empirically. Formulating a hypothesis is a critical step towards planning and conducting research. It allows us to move from the realm of common sense to the rigors of the scientific method.
Again, so let me stop you for just a moment. So one of the things, right, again, they're saying a correlation between variables, that one thing causes an effect in another. What's the cause and effect here in this example?
The playing violent video games for an hour. That's the
Good.
cause.
Good.
Yeah.
And the effect?
That they're more likely to be aggressive towards others.
Outstanding, Ryan.
Yeah.
So very good. So keep this in mind for your own research. And then again, the very specific wording here. Teenage boys, not everybody, these type of boys. What type of behavior? Aggressive behavior. What are they gonna be doing? They're playing video games. They playing all day? They playing for a few minutes? No, they're playing for an hour. And there are two groups that they're comparing here. Who are the two groups?
The ones that play violent video games for an hour and the ones that play non-violent video games for an hour.
Good. Let's continue on.
As hypotheses proliferate and data shouldn't be data is collected, but data are collected to test the hypotheses.
Data is actually plural. If it was singular, it would be datum. D-A-T-U-M.
Oh, datum. Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
almost rarely used because you never have just one data. It's like a collection, but
yeah.
technically yes.
Okay. Let me write that down. Hold up. All right.
Can you spell that again? What was it? Is it datum?
D-A-T-U-M.
Okay.
Man, that's new to me, boy. For real.
Right. You'll almost never, ever see it, but technically, yes, it's a word.
So
Continue.
I don't mean to get off topic, but like,
Okay.
so in all these papers I type, when I say, the data is, I mean, well, I don't see now I'm fucked up.
There's almost no English teacher in the world that will mark you if you use is or are.
Okay. I'm just okay. All right. Continuing. My bad.
It's all good.
And data are collected to test the hypotheses. A more advanced step in the research process may take place: the proposal of a theory, an organized set of principles used to explain observed phenomena.
And I would
Social
add to
science.
that. I would add to that: explain observed phenomena related to cause and effect. Related to cause and effect.
All right.
Continue.
Social psychologists aspire to do more than collect a list of findings. The goal is to explain these findings, to articulate the connections between the variables that are studied, and to thereby predict and more completely understand our social worlds. All right. All else being equal, the best theories are efficient and precise, encompass all of the relevant information, and lead to new hypotheses, further research, and better understanding. Good social psychological theories inspire subsequent research designed to test various aspects of the theories and the specific hypotheses that are derived from them. Whether it truly is accurate or not, a theory has little worth if it cannot be tested. Little worth if it can't be tested. A theory may make an important contribution to the field, even if it turns out to be wrong. The research it inspires may prove more valuable than the theory itself. As the result shed light on new truths that might not have been discovered without the direction suggested by the theory.
Hold fast. So in that way, Jakira, in many ways, the Electra and Oedipus complex has been discredited by many social psychologists. That again, we do not believe that little kids want to have sex with their parents. but there's a lot from Freud's research that we do use. One of them being, for example, one of them being, for example, the notion again that, how you're socialized by your parents can have an impact upon, like, your future romantic partnerships. But the most important thing that came from Iran is that there are so many things that human beings do and engage in that are related to, that are buried deep in our subconscious, things that we're not actively thinking about. So before Freud's research, we never really had a concept for the subconscious, meaning that, again, you may not, like an abusive parent, they're usually not conscious of the fact that the reason why they're abusing their children is because they were abused themselves. They're not thinking about this, like, you know what, I'm gonna whoop your ass because I was getting whooped, getting beat on as a child. It's in their subconscious. People may not be aware that, the reason why you get into fights at school all the time, Michael, is that, you're dealing with some internal family problems. And if there's something in your subconscious that these fights at school is a way in your subconscious to tell your parents, hey, look at me. So sometimes people will get in trouble, like, to get attention. It's the only way I get mom and dad to even pay attention to what the hell I'm doing. But the kid often is not actively thinking that. Women in abuse relationships, they're not, may go in abusive relationship after abusive relationship. They may not want to do that. There's something in their subconscious that may be affecting that behavior. So even a really bad theory like Freud's can produce some things like that. A little bit more, Ron.
Gotcha. Indeed, the best theorists want their ideas to be debated and even doubted to inspire others in the field to put their ideas to the test. The goal is for these theories to evolve to become more and more accurate and complete.
Good. Like, again, you might, do some research, Ron, and doing this research, I don't have all the answers, but there are some questions that need to be asked that have not been asked. Again, Jakiro, like we talked about, a lot of these questions have not been asked by women, have not been asked by Native Americans, have not been asked by people that may have handicaps. A lot of literature on research on single parent families being done by people from two-parent households. So it's so many questions that have not been looked at and answered. And your goal may not be to come up with all the answers, but just to get the discussion going. Like, as a teacher, and as researchers, that's what many of us aspire to be. I'm not trying to be up here like I got all the answers. What we try and do, Latavia, is to promote certain questions. And then that generates thinking, because if we don't ask certain questions, Michael, we have no chance of figuring out the answers. So again, an answer might be that we may need to give inmates more condoms. But if we don't take the time to really learn about the science of that, we can make some really bad decisions. Jakira, can you pick up where Ron left off for me? Very good, Ron Anderson.
No problem. I left off that 2-2C just for reference, if you need.
Okay. Is testing a theory the purpose of research in social psychology? For some researchers, yes. Basic research seeks to increase our understanding of human behavior and is often designed to test a specific hypothesis from a specific theory. Applied research. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. I was trying to move, but applied research focuses more specifically on making applications to the world and contributing to the solution of social problems.
Applied research would be something like the school breakfast program, Latavia, in many ways came out of the scientific observation that, and this will seem obvious now, but it did not always, that kids perform better, wait for it, when they have eaten in the morning. That if you, like, again, we assume, hey, everybody's coming to school well fed. No, there are many kids that are coming, like, and they have to eat sleep for dinner. There was no food in the household. How do we expect, Latavia, for these kids to perform at the same rate as their classmates in this situation? So we can introduce the variable of, hey, let's have a school lunch program, a school breakfast program, where kids that may not have enough resources to eat a good meal at home every day, we can ensure that they have that and they aren't harmed educationally by something like not being able to eat a meal every day. So that's an example of applied research. Let me see. I think, let me see. I will leave it there for today. The next session looked at from abstract conceptual variables and operational definitions, a tough section of the material. I need you all between now and Thursday to read. I'm here at 2-3A. I want y'all between now and Thursday. Again, I'm at 2A. Try and get to at least 2-4E. Try and get to at least 2-4E, culture and research methods. And be prepared to discuss this on Thursday. I don't expect you to know everything about this section of the reading, Latavia, but don't come in here telling me that you don't know nothing or don't understand anything. Try. I'll help you get to where you fall, pick you up where you fall short, but do make efforts to really understand this section of the material. Are there any questions or comments about anything we covered so far today?
No, sir.
Keep in mind that you get your first assignment for this class on Thursday. And there's a reason why I went over this stuff in such detail with y'all here today. For those y'all that came to class, you're in a huge advantage of being able to complete this assignment effectively. So take in, again, I hope you took good notes today. Make sure that you look at them and please continue to read ahead. And if there are things that you need to go over a little bit again, it's not that long of reading. Go back and review some of the material that we covered today. I will see you all on Thursday. And if you have any questions before the end, you know how to reach me. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, you too.
All right,
Thank
you
you,
too.
sir.